In today's video, I paid £25 for a flight with easyJet from London to the Isle of Man, and I'll show you why, despite their bad reputation, sometimes budget airlines are the best option. So buckle up and enjoy this surprisingly easy trip with easyJet. We start off at London Gatwick South Terminal, where I didn't film much as I arrived at 7 AM and the gate was closing at 7:30 AM. But thanks to this terminal's amazing efficiency, I managed to race through security in just 3 minutes, and after some quick walking I still had 20 minutes before the gate closed, so I ate a quick breakfast at the Aspire Lounge. Gatwick Airport is a bit dated, but this is why it's one of my favourite airports. It's usually so incredibly efficient. I can't think of many other airports where you can go from stepping off the train to clearing security in just 5 minutes. And you heard that right, I looked at the video timestamps and it was literally just 5 minutes. And of course, UK airports don't have exit immigration either, so that adds to the efficiency too. The Aspire Lounge is quite good by the way, much less busy than the number 1 lounge and has a decent cooked breakfast. Plus it's free to enter with priority pass. After that I headed to gate 13, which luckily wasn't too much of a walk, and arrived at 7:25, 5 minutes before the gate closed.
30, gate number 13, where the gate will be closing shortly.
So great efficiency there from easyJet and Gatwick. Very rare to see the gate actually close at the time they say it will. But easyJet are too cheap to use a jet bridge, so we had to climb the stairs onto the plane, and surprisingly, this flight was fully booked. Maybe it was because the flight the day before was cancelled due to Storm Eowyn, but I didn't think the Isle of Man would be such a popular destination, so I would recommend you buy seat selection to avoid getting assigned a bad seat. I paid only £4.99 for my seat 23A today, which was worth it to avoid a middle seat. Before we step on board, here's a look at today's route and flight stats. We would take a small detour around the east of London before heading back northwest over Birmingham and Liverpool, before arriving at the Isle of Man's Ronaldsway Airport 4 minutes ahead of schedule, for a total flight time of just 58 minutes. The cabin was too full to really film anything, so here's a shot of the seat after landing. You're treated to an extremely claustrophobic 28-inch of seat pitch, basically the least legroom you'll find on any airline, and in terms of comfort, it feels like sitting on an ironing board, but it was clean at least, and that's about the only positive thing I can think to say. Luckily I'm quite short and the flight was only an hour, so I cope. Also, don't put stuff in your seat back pocket. It has no sides, so it's very easy for things to fall out, which kind of defeats the point of a pocket if you ask me. Anyway, it's not a good seat, so if you're on the larger side, all I can say is good luck. Even Ryanair give you 1 inch more of legroom. Surprisingly, there is a magazine, which many airlines don't bother with these days, and the food is relatively affordable, so pause the video if you want to see that.
Speaking, well, welcome. This is Airbus A320 and flight to the Isle of Man. Well, we've got everyone now, just finished off the paperwork, close the front door. Pretty much ready to go, we're a little bit ahead of schedule at the moment. Just got to wait about 12 minutes or so before we can hopefully get underway.
So as you heard from the captain, we were fully boarded and ready to go 22 minutes ahead of our scheduled departure time. Unfortunately, we ended up waiting a bit longer than 12 minutes the captain originally mentioned, so we actually ended up departing 20 minutes late, but that's still perfectly acceptable to me. Now as we head to the runway, I should say I'm very anti-easyJet. For whatever reason, on the routes I fly, they're almost always more expensive than Ryanair or Wizz Air. Sometimes even the same price as British Airways. And this is purely a coincidence, but every time I've flown them in the last 5 years, they've been delayed. However, this flight was extremely cheap, and we broke the always delayed curse, so maybe easyJet aren't that bad after all. Also, Uber are clearly paying a lot of money to have their name all over this airport. We got a great view of London after taking off, but that was pretty much the only thing that happened during this flight. There wasn't even a loo review. So let's fast forward to the descent into the Isle of Man and quite a blustery landing.
It's now been fully opened, tray tables stowed away, armrests down, and if you were using a laptop, this must be switched off and stowed away for landing. The crew have a short turnaround before heading back to Gatwick this morning, so please do help us out by handing in any final rubbish or empties.
So just there, the crew asked people to help with rubbish due to a short turnaround on the ground. But then when we actually landed, I didn't manage to film it, but they asked us to try and disembark as quickly as possible and not to block the aisle when getting overhead luggage, which is kind of just common sense, but it's still the first time I've heard the crew be so blunt about it. But I appreciate the efficiency, as there's nothing worse than being trapped waiting to get off a plane. And even though you've been waiting for 5 minutes already, the person in front of you seems to be completely taken by surprise when it's their turn to finally get off. And you have to wait even longer whilst they fumble to get all their belongings in order. You can see as we turn off the runway how little space there was left to stop. We basically ended up using the whole thing. It was then a short taxi to the gate since the airport is so small. And that's about it for today's flight. After all that, I can say my opinion of easyJet has slightly improved. Specifically on this route, easyJet are easily the most sensible airline to take. The only competition is Loganair, who I flew on the way back to London by the way, but they usually cost well over £100 for the same one-way trip. So in situations like that, easyJet really are the most obvious choice, despite the lack of legroom. The flight was incredibly cheap, on time, and the service was fine I guess. The seat comfort is terrible, and it's annoying to have to deal with all the attempts at upselling, but that's par for the course with budget airlines, so thanks to that, easyJet moved from a 3 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10 on the Freddy's flight review tier list. Still not great, but compared to other airlines on the list, I can't really rate them any higher. Now my return flight to London was much more exciting on a Loganair ATR 72. So click the link in the top right corner or the description to watch that video, and if you enjoyed or want to see more, then please click like and subscribe. In the next few weeks I'll be reviewing KLM from London City to Dubai via Amsterdam, in a Royal Brunei 787 back to London, and much more. So thanks for watching and goodbye.